Good afternoon. I'm David Raybin. My co-counsel is John M. L. Brown. We've received Judge Blackburn's written order binding Officer Delke's case over to the grand jury. We thank Judge Blackburn for our opportunity to conduct a full and fair hearing. There are some limitations of what I can say, and I can only comment on the evidence produced in open court, which are now matters of public record. All the evidence that's been introduced, including our videos and the audio tapes, are on file in the clerk's office. I suggest you all acquire and analyze that yourselves if you wish. As Judge Blackburn stated, this hearing was simply a preliminary hearing in General Sessions Court to determine whether probable cause of an offense has existed. Most of the litigation is yet to come, including a final determination of guilt or innocence by a jury. That determination has to be made under a much higher standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. Remember that every case in our county that has resulted in a verdict of not guilty or a later exoneration was preceded by a finding of probable cause. So we anticipated this and look forward to the next step. We all saw the isolated video clip initially released by the District Attorney's Office months ago. But we've already learned so much more besides that, which painted a more complete picture about what really happened. We've learned without doubt that Mr. Hambrick, as the proof showed at the preliminary hearing, and as the warrant recited, had a firearm in his hand when he was shot, a fully loaded Beretta semi-automatic pistol. We've learned that the original security footage was destroyed before the defense had an opportunity to review it. That should not have happened. We've learned that Officer Delke did not pull out his own firearm until he had already seen Mr. Hambrick's firearm and described it over the police radio. What's more, the radio transmission shows that Officer Delke was able to describe that Mr. Hambrick had a button-up shirt. How could he have described that over the radio before the shooting if he didn't see the front of Mr. Hambrick? It was only after Mr. Hambrick showed Officer Delke the barrel of the gun and ignored repeated commands to drop the weapon that the proof showed at the preliminary hearing, and as the judge found, that Officer Delke fired his weapon. This case is very simple. The warrant says that Mr. Hambrick had a pistol in his hand. The law says an officer can use deadly force if commands to drop a gun are given. In this case, the warrant makes clear Officer Delke shouted 3 times for Hambrick to drop his weapon, but he did not drop his weapon. The district attorney recited that in his closing argument that Mr. Hambrick was running for his life, I believe, but Officer Delke did not have his weapon drawn through fully half of this and did not drop the weapon after repeated commands to do so. We read from Officer Delke's statement, which said, quote, Mr. Hambrick did not turn completely around and start walking backwards, but he turned his body toward me. His head turned completely toward me, and he looked directly at me, and the gun was pointed in my direction at that point. That is what we established and never contended that there was a full 180-degree turn, as repeatedly argued by the state. More importantly, of course, the use of force expert was quite clear that a person can be dangerous when they're armed with a weapon, no matter how they're standing. We've learned that the Nashville Police Department trains its officers to use deadly force when a suspect displays a firearm and ignores commands to drop the weapon. We've learned that Officer Delke's use of force was in full compliance, as was testified to at the hearing, with the training provided by our Nashville Police Department. At the preliminary hearing, we called retired Sergeant Robert Allen, who testified as an expert in police training and use of force. His expertise went unchallenged by the prosecutor. They put on no contrary evidence. Sergeant Allen testified Officer Delke's actions were entirely consistent with his training. In his closing argument, General Funk described Officer Delke's adherence to his training as tantamount to the defense asserted by the Nazi war criminals at Nuremberg. By making such inflammatory comments have no place in this city, or more importantly, in a courtroom. By making that statement, the District Attorney Glenn Funk, has functionally declared war on our police because all of our officers are trained in an identical fashion. Let me be clear, Nashville police officers are not Nazis. Despite all we have learned at this early stage, there's still much we do not know. For example, the District Attorney's Office has refused to release to us the TBI report. Since this was withheld from the defense, we did not have an opportunity to present that at the preliminary hearing. Now, that will be given to us later in criminal court, and that's what the rules require. But we did not have all the cards placed on the table face up for us to have to present. Now, Officer Delke will have a full and fair opportunity to defend himself for these charges before a jury of his peers. The jury will have an opportunity to view all the facts and consider all the laws. We believe that a jury will find that Officer Delke is not guilty. We believe that the proof will show he was following his training and defending himself against an armed threat. Judge Blackburn commented on the unfortunate absence of a body cam. We agree with the judge. Footage from Officer Delke's perspective would place an outsider in Officer Delke's shoes, which is what we'll do at trial. No person looks forward to a trial, but if there must be one, then we fully intend to present a full defense, at the conclusion of which we will urge a jury to find Officer Delke not guilty. I thank you for your time. I can only answer very narrow, strict procedural questions like what happens now. I cannot comment further.
How about as a FOP attorney in a broader sense and in a different role, are you worried that this message, that just the actual rubber stamping of this tells police officers they can no longer shoot fleeing people even if they're armed?
I'm general counsel for the Fraternal Order of Police. Mr. Brown also represents the Fraternal Order of Police. In this case, we represent Officer Delke. I make no comment on the police force generally or on behalf of the FOP. I don't want to have two different roles here. So therefore I cannot answer that question. That's more something you might want to direct to the FOP.
Mr. Raybin, do you really see Glenn Funk's comments in court as a declaration of war on the Nashville Police Department?
That's what I said in my statement, ma'am.
What does that mean?
It's exactly what I said. I'm not going to, it is what it is.
It's a very inflammatory comment, and
His comment was inflammatory, and that's why I suggest that that's what it amounted to.
So just to clarify, you'll only make comments about this case, but you'll also say that he's declared war on all of the police.
That is functionally what he did in the statement when he equated my client and his training to the Nazis.
Will you explain to the public why your argument of this being a lawful shooting? You believe that the TCA law provided clearly that this is a legal shooting, and so then you have a judge saying maybe it's not. That's a kind of a stunning turn of events.
Well, the judge is looking at this from a probable cause standard, and we're looking at it from a proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard, and those are two entirely different things. And again, we did not have the full report. We could not put on all the proof that we had.
Is there a statement, or is there a portion of the law that you think clearly spells this out, that this was legal?
I don't want to comment on it any further. The law speaks for itself.
Is there anything you find promising in the judge's ruling for your case?
I think I commented on that. I thought that there were some good comments about body cams, and there were some other things that the judge pointed out, particularly that this is a probable cause standard. And obviously the judge was only able to hear what was presented in the case. We didn't have all the facts. So we considered the opinion very comprehensive, and we do appreciate that the judge listened to all the proof and gave us an opportunity to present that which we've had, but there's certainly more to come.
Is Mr. Delke still employed with the Metro Police Department, and what have your conversations been like with him today?
I can't comment about conversations with my client. He's still a member of the police department.
Anything that surprised you in the ruling out this morning?
I don't want to comment about it. We're moving forward.
So what are you gonna do next?
I'm going to await General Funk's decision on whether he wants to present it to the grand jury or not, and to see what the grand jury says about this.
Would a grand jury, on some occasions, people have actually brought the officer to the grand jury to talk to the grand jury. Is that on the table, something like that?
I have no idea. We just received the decision here. I have no idea what General Funk. The grand jury proceedings are secret. We don't know what happens there.
Would there be any other legal action you would take between now and a grand jury?
None is
presentation?
available under the law.
Is it only the grand jury, or is that the next step?
Yes, ma'am.
And then after that, is it possible that this could go to a bench trial, or is it
No,
only?
ma'am. What had happened is after the grand jury hears the case, if there's an indictment, then the case will go to a jury of 12.
So the grand jury is a one-sided affair, so you fully expect now you're preparing.
I'm not, I have no expectations one way or the other. I'm just simply commenting on what the next step is. Thank you. Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Raybin, one more question. What do you think this means for the city of Nashville, that the fact that this ruling came down today? This is pretty unprecedented.
Well, I don't want to comment any further on General Funk's actions. I've said what I've said about it.
So
Thank you.
you will just say he's declared war, but not what that means on a broader sense for the city?
I stand by my statement. I'm not going to comment any further on it. Thank you all.